Troubling news indeed. Police Minister Bheki Cele has released the latest quarterly crime stats. The picture is really bleak. Between July and September this year, crime levels have massively trended upwards. Around 7,000 murders have been recorded. Now that averages out to around 76 murders a day during the 3 months. More than a 13% increase on the same period last year for murder. In the same reporting period, 250 dockets of multiple murders involving 578 victims were being investigated by the police. And it doesn't end there, sadly. Over 10,000 rapes were reported. And I say reported, stressing that word, because we know many rapes are simply not reported. But that 10,000 figure that has been reported leaves us with an appalling statistic of over 108 rapes every single day. It's much likely to be higher than that, but that's what's reported. Over 13,000 women were also victims of assault with intent to cause grievous bodily harm. Now listen to this stat. Kidnappings have doubled nationally in that 3-month period. Over 4,000 cases reported from July to September this year. 67 rapes and 19 murders at schools also reported. So in terms of percentages, contact crimes increased by 18.5%. Total sexual offences jumped by 11%. It's really a shocking set of numbers with very real victims behind every single number. The minister says the rule of law must stand firm and that the police service will continue to sharpen its responses to the country's rampant crime levels. Well, let's try and understand why we are dealing with such increasing levels of violent crime. I'm joined now by Professor Jaco Barkhuisen, head of the criminology department at the University of Limpopo. Thank you so much for joining us, Prof. You know, murders are even higher now than they were before the pandemic. And I understand that we've been on a rise in murders since around 2011. If we look at the top cases for murder and what causes them, we're looking at arguments and provocation, road rage, just anger right at the top of the list, followed by mob justice and vigilantism. Third in line is robbery. So murder is everywhere, from personal fights to whole communities feeling angry and wanting to take revenge, and then the theft and robbery in our homes. Why are more and more South Africans getting murdered? What's going wrong?
Okay, so first of all, the crime stats is not abnormal. It's beyond abnormal. It's preternaturally wrong. Like you said, murder is increasing now to such an extent that no one basically is safe anymore in South Africa. Why is it increasing? Well, first of all, our crime prevention strategy is old and outdated. The criminal justice system is failing. We see it every day. The police is basically failing. And before the minister says, no, it's not, we have the statistics now. This shows a complete failure in the criminal justice system, and especially in policing. Like you said, most rapes do not get reported. So it's even more than the 108 that you just mentioned per day that get raped. What can be done? That is a long debate, but the way the crime trend is trending up, no one is basically safe in South Africa.
Yeah, and that is a very tragic state of affairs for a country that is so beautiful, that has so much potential and so many wonderful people. The criminals and the people who seem to be increasingly getting away with crime are running rampant. There was a very interesting mail sent out from the Good Party, Brett Heron, saying that he almost feels sorry for the police minister. The reality is it's not just the job of police to fix the problem of crime, in the sense that there are many facets to what leads someone to resort to crime. It could be pure economics. It could also be, as we've seen, anger, addiction. There are so many levels of intervention. Is it fair to blame the police entirely, or would you say that there's a failure at many levels?
Well, actually, from the president and every cabinet member should be ashamed, and ministers, all ministers should be ashamed at this level of crime in South Africa, because crime cuts through every portfolio they have. So unemployment, the rise of unemployment will lead to higher crimes. Higher crimes will lead to less investment. Less investment leads to higher unemployment. Same with tourism, same with small and medium businesses. The rise in crime leads to the rise in gender-based violence. So every person in government, in a position of power, should feel extremely ashamed today of this crime stats, not just the Minister of Police, because government needs to have an intervention, and really fast. People do not trust the police. They do not trust the criminal justice system. Unemployment is sky high. If nothing is done very soon, then things will get extremely worse really fast.
I mean, we're seeing, we've just seen the presidential summit, the second presidential summit on ending gender-based violence. There's a national strategic plan. It seems there is money available, but things aren't moving at all or aren't moving quickly enough. And you say that every minister has a role to play. These crime stats moved into quarterly announcements very much to help the police target their efforts. What do you think they're not doing that they should be doing? Because I want to hear some solutions. I want to hear some concrete things that perhaps we can do, because otherwise we're just swimming in hopelessness.
Okay, first of all, the first thing the police need to do is update their crime prevention strategy. The current one was developed in the end of the 1990s, early 2000s. It's outdated for the type of crimes.
Give me an example, because I don't know what, sorry to butt in, but what is a crime prevention strategy? And give me an example of what's not working in it.
Well, the National Crime Prevention Strategy, it's the actual policy document of how the police should tackle crimes. Stuff that is not in, for example, the crime prevention strategy, as was stated, is cybercrime, because cybercrime is new. So we have the
but that doesn't link to murder. Sure, but that doesn't link to murder.
But I mean, so did you ask for an example? So murder as well. Now that we see in our stats that it's not stranger murder, it's intimate partners, the rise of gender-based violence, for example. Remember, rape used to be, it was stranger rape in the beginning of the 90s and 2000s. So the resources were sort of directed towards that. But we see now from the stats, it's mostly intimate partner type of rapes, intimate partner type of violence. The National Crime Prevention Strategy also assumes that there is trust in the police. The rise in mob shows us, also reports by victims and by offenders, that there is no trust in the police. There is, in the African Barometer study also showed that South Africa.
We know this, though. I mean, these are all the problems, and I would imagine they all contribute, first of all, to women not reporting rape because they feel they go through a second violation often when they go to the police station. These problems are well known, but it's not just getting to a stable level of abnormal. It is increasing. And then if we look at things like kidnapping, which has doubled, literally doubled in 3 months, does that suggest to you that the signal is that it's a bit of a free-for-all here in South Africa?
Well, yes, especially when it comes to kidnapping. Now, usually when we talk about kidnapping, there's two models. There's the Brazilian model where everyone that can be kidnapped will be kidnapped. And then you have the South Korean model where it was high net worth individuals that got kidnapped. In South Africa, it's basically a combination of the Brazilian model of kidnapping for ransom and the Korean model of kidnapping for ransom to have now this South African model of kidnapping for ransom. Again, kidnapping for ransom is sort of a relatively new type of crime in South Africa. We didn't have that about 10 years ago. It was extremely rare. Now with the increase and the inability of the police to have high-profile arrests, show it on the TV, show that it's working. It gives the idea, it creates this social reality that kidnapping for ransom is a free-for-all. As long as you can do it well, you'll get away with it.
We've also heard around kidnappings that there is a unit involving a number of different policing units. And this might be, as we seek solutions, part of the answer that recently with a little girl who was kidnapped and then she was found in Khayelitsha, not having paid ransom to the family, there was a joint effort. Are you seeing any seeds of hope for better cooperation, more specialized units to try and target in on crimes such as kidnapping?
Yes, there is a unit, and it's a good unit. We just need to capacitate these units more, give them more money, give them more resources. Like, 65 to 75% of the police budget is actually spent on salaries. That is also not normal. So, like, we don't give enough resources to the police to do their job. We need more specialized units like the kidnapping unit. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for chatting to us this evening. That, of course, was Professor Jaco Barkhuisen, head of the criminology department at the University of Limpopo. Over 76 murders a day in South Africa. It's absolutely chilling. And against that context, let's focus